yeah, regarding color, I think you have a pretty good transition where you start with here, and if I select this, it's probably going to change the hue. Let's test that. Yep. Yep. And over here, it goes down to red, orange, right? So I'm glad to see that. The thing I'd be looking for is if you're changing the value, but not changing the hue, then we'd have a problem. Aside from that, it's good. Kind of take a look and see how we can make it a little bit better with that same color palette. I think the first thing that I would do is establish stronger value groups like this and say that anything in this whole area, we're not allowed to have highlights. And ironically, the more you simplify something, the, I guess, more appealing it is. And even it might even look more complex, but I simplify those. So that's kind of the same critique as the previous part. Make sure, squint and then really do the same thing with the highlights. And so I'm imagining the geometry of the face and then trying to picture which sides would actually face the light and which ones wouldn't. And it seems like there's light from the left side. And then from here, I'd probably grab the airbrush, start blending a little bit. Maybe even group this all together. And then this would go back to the first critique from last time, but that lower eyelid, just let it be its own plane. And I would use that dark value that you picked up from the reference for some of the shadow parts and the eyelids and eyelashes. And I know this part of the assignment wasn't exactly to make a portrait that's super accurate or something, but when you do get to this part and it looks kind of ambiguous, I would just pull up some of that reference. I'm just going to find a random one. That's fine. And just kind of go in there and then figure out the wireframe of the specifics of things so that the mouth isn't like a weird blob. So here, it's going to look at this. All right, we got the two corners of the mouth. That's probably the most important part. And then we have this kind of coming down like that. And I'm just sort of imagining the vertices of the wireframe and putting those in. And the highlights are in a pretty good spot. Kind of shows the form really well. But I'd want to, make sure that everything is accounted for. Right, and so if we have that as our guide, then we can have a bit more of an accurate display of a mouth. And there'd be a little bit of a tiny shadow there. And it's sort of reverse engineering because the light is coming from the other side. But if you know the wireframe, it makes it pretty easy because you could just say, all right, well, these polygons are facing away, those are not. Right. And just by doing that real quick, it just adds so much more solidity to it. So, I would challenge you to go back to this or to another one and then re-inform all the parts with a wireframe structure to make it professional looking. And this is just that part of the donut assignment where one side is dark and the other is light. Yeah, cool. Aside from that, I don't have too much to add to the color stuff. I think I'll probably be talking about color stuff with the other critiques, but yeah, you did what you're supposed to with this. So any questions before we move on to the next person? Now, I don't know if this was on purpose, but I'm going to give the same critique as well as before with the value groups. When I squint, it seems like we're getting into dark lands over here. And when I look at the reference, like this is all one big obvious value group. But over here, I think it's subdivided a bit too much. And so let me just see what I can do to fix that. Duplicate everything, kick it up in values, and then put a mask on there. Squinting my eyes right now, just blurring them. I don't see any forms. I'm just conserve value. It's going to make sure it's all in the same place. And if you can just get the simple value groups to read in this fashion, when you zoom out, you'll notice a huge difference of the form read. All right, cool, yeah. So we zoom out. It's very distinct with the value groups. We know which side is light side, which is not. If we turn it off, it kind of blends together a little bit. Now, if you like that it's more isolated like this, that's fine. Just keep in mind that this is something that you could do to help show form.